Tennessee Life is sponsored by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville. nexttonewknox.com. And by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. knoxvilleflowerpot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Coming up on this edition of Tennessee Life, many of the women who helped build the fabric of our state have been unknown until now. Meet the creators of a historic book honoring Tennessee women.
We decided that today's young women probably didn't know enough about the history of the women in their state. Our goal was to give them role models and to try to reach the younger women in the state.
From the curve of a face to the curve of a car, we go inside the studio of artist Bobbie Crews.
I have that kind of energy that I'm putting into my paintings, and I want people to feel that.
And flowers for everybody, and not a bloom wasted, is the mission of this organization. Those stories next on Tennessee Life.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Tennessee Life. I'm your host, Vickie Lawson. 2 Tennesseans wanted to make sure the influential women of our state's past are not forgotten. Thanks to their efforts, you can read their stories in the book, Tennessee Women of Vision and Courage. I sat down with creators Charlotte Crawford and Ruth Johnson Smiley. We start with how they came up with the concept and gathered stories and writers.
We decided that today's young women probably didn't know enough about the history of the women in their state. Our goal was to give them role models and to try to reach the younger women in the state. So our target audience here was really high school girls and young women, as well as just the general population.
Well, I think women have played an important role in the state from pioneer days on. Tennessee heroes that we know about, like Sam Houston. He learned much from the strength and fortitude of his mother.
How did the concept come about to put all these influential women and historic women into one book?
Well, Ruth and I were co-editor of a newsletter, and for one Women's History Month, Ruth suggested, why don't we focus on some Tennessee women and have some brief biographies of them? And it came out, and it was very well received, and it was interesting. And so we talked about it a little more, and Ruth said, well, we could do one a month. And I said, no, we're not going to do one a month. How about a pamphlet? Or eventually we convinced ourselves that a book was the way to go.
Tell me about the process of putting this book together, because you not only had several nominations, but you had several authors.
We decided to go out to a number of women's organizations across the state, and we contacted them and asked them to reach out to their network of women and submit nominations to us. And we say well over 100, although one person gave me 100 nominations of women's athletes, and I just count those as one, but well over 100 nominations. And so we had to decide how to winnow that down, and we selected on the basis of geography, vocation, era, the time frame. And so that was how we tried to get a spectrum of the women, and it was not easy to winnow it down to the 22 that we did. And then we needed to recruit authors to write these stories, and we wanted to use only Tennessee women, and we did recruit what we think are 20 terrific authors to write the stories. Some of them were professional authors, some were educators, one is a high school student.
Let's talk about some of the women featured. I'd like to start with the woman on the cover, Evelyn Stone Bryan Johnson, Mama Bird as she came to be known. Charlotte, I understand you call her your cover girl.
I think once we had her in our repertoire and saw the various photos, she just jumped out at us. Her picture on the cover shows such joy in what she was doing, and she obviously loved it. So pretty much, yes, she was our first choice.
Ruth, share some of your favorite parts of the Mama Bird story.
She saw an ad in the newspaper that said, "Learn to fly." And she said, "That's what I'll do." So she then set out to get to the island airport in Knoxville to take lessons. She had to take a train, a bus, walk, and then a rowboat over to the island where the airport was. Her story should inspire girls to take a risk, follow your dream, which is what she did.
She had a good sense of humor because most of her flying was done teaching lessons, and she had Senator Howard Baker giving him a lesson for his pilot's license, and came to a point where he had to make the plane stall and then come out of it in order to pass the test. And he said, "No, I'm not going to do that." She said, "Either you do that or you don't get your license." And so he said, "Okay, I guess I do."
Another woman featured is named Margaret Thompson Hiddleston. Ruth, tell me how she combined art and messages about tough struggles many women face.
She had been in an abusive marriage. She left that marriage with 3 children. She was already an artist. She was the co-founder of the Foothills Craft Guild, but she used her life experiences in her artwork. She worked in several different art forms, but what she ended up doing that was so noteworthy was making felt banners that carry a message, many of them about domestic violence. And she didn't stop there. She would go to church and civic groups, show her banners, and her goal was to help women who were suffering from abuse.
What do you believe makes Tennessee women so special?
There's a stereotype from Northerners about Southern women. And you come down and you find out that yes, they're polite, and yes, they have charm, and they're gracious and well-mannered, but they are steel magnolias. They have that spine, and there are many women here that I have met that have really accomplished things on their own and done a good job of it. And I think they have that adaptability, and perhaps some of the rough patches that Tennessee women have gone through have made them strong.
Thank you, Charlotte and Ruth. You two are also Tennessee women of vision and courage for putting this book together and for sharing those stories and sharing your Tennessee life with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Later on Tennessee Life, flowers once destined for the trash can are recycled into beautiful new bouquets. And next, artist Bobbie Crews on her earliest memories at the canvas, her breakthroughs in Tennessee, and the road ahead.
Whether you realize it or not, you have likely seen the artwork of Bobbie Crews. The artist has had a long-time love of capturing the human form. Now she has a new enthusiasm for automotive art. We join her at the canvas to talk about the inspiration behind many of her pieces.
People make comments to me all the time about the size of the work that I work on, because I do big paintings, but I feel like it makes such a difference. A big painting just has this oomph and makes a big impact. Well, I've been doing the murals for a long time. I guess I started in people's homes and in churches and schools and things. And the more your work gets out there, the more people call on you. I guess the biggest mural I've done so far is the one on the side of the visitor center in downtown Knoxville. And that was 40 by 60 feet. And we had 6 levels of scaffolding up the side of that building. And it makes people happy. It makes them feel good about our downtown. I do have some work in some museums right now, which I'm really happy about, but I'm especially happy that I'm out there with the everyday person. It makes me feel great that I can call Knoxville home and that people realize that yes, Bobbie Crews lives here and she does make a difference. Even though I'm from Northwest Ohio, I raised my kids here. I've been here for a number of years. And this is a great place to be. I love this town. This is my town. I have to say that most people in Knoxville know me because of my work at Aubrey's Restaurants. And the owner of Aubrey's, Randy Burleson, was very kind to me. In '93, he let me start doing his chalkboards. And I got a lot of work from that, and it really boosted my career. I painted a mural at the UT Vet School, College of Veterinary Medicine, and it's all about the Smoky Mountains, and it has all the different animals, it has water, it has mountains and lots of trees all in this. So it's really kind of fun and it's pretty, and people love to look for the different animals. It's almost like a Where's Waldo kind of piece. In downtown Loudon, I did an extensive mural with 8 different sections that was all on the golden age of the big screen, and that was really fun. I guess I've always wanted to be an artist, and I've been drawing people since I was really tiny. And when I first went to school in 1st grade, I took a drawing to school of people, and my teacher ended up dragging me around the whole school, showing me off to these other teachers along with my drawings. And I think that was the first time I really realized I had something different, and it just grew from there. I really am self-taught. I was very centered on painting and drawing people. And I'm still fascinated by the human form and the human face and just how beautiful it is. I think I'm also known for my automobile paintings. And I've done a lot of that because they remind me of people. And of course I love to paint people, but the cars have so much character. And I do the old cars, the 30s, the 40s, and that era. It was just such a beautiful era for design, so much personality, and painting the actual cars is almost like painting the skin on a portrait. And you get those reflections and all the beautiful colors, and I show a lot of the things that people don't ordinarily notice. I was doing the automobile art in murals and chalkboards for years, and they were always fun, and they would remind me of people, my grandfather, my grandmother, an aunt or an uncle. And I thought, well, why am I not doing these as fine art? And I did a mural at the Cadillac dealership on Kingston Pike that used to be there. And it was a '36 Cadillac. And I thought, I really love this car. And people were getting excited. And I thought, why not do this as fine art? So I did it on canvas, and I've been doing them ever since. I had somebody see that first canvas and ask me, could you do that for a whole show in about 5 months from now? I have a space for you. And I said, sure, I could do that. And so I jumped right in and worked my tail off, and I got 7 big paintings done of the older cars and put on my first show. I really enjoy the challenge, I guess, in painting the cars. They're not easy to paint. I actually find it a little bit easier to paint people. You have to get all the lines and the curves and the design correct as you're painting and drawing, or it's not that car and it's not right. And these aficionados know that. I've done some automotive shows, and those are like the Concorda Elegance type shows. And I've done a couple in Kentucky and Pennsylvania, and I've been invited to some more. But the car shows are kind of fun. You get to go and meet all these people that own these fancy cars, and and fix them up and restore them. And it's amazing, some of the collectors, how many of these cars they have. The American Way is a painting I did after that 36 Cadillac over at the Cadillac dealership. And it was a beautiful car, but it just struck me that that car was made during the Great Depression. And I thought, who would be able to afford a car like that during the Depression? When I started painting the American Way, we were pretty deep into our Great Recession. And I kept comparing in my mind those fancy big old cars during the 1930s that were built during the Great Depression and how similar it all was. My painting called Secret City was painted about Oak Ridge, our secret city. I did it because I was always interested in the World War II era. Some of these cars that I paint reminded me of that era. To me, when I think about the people that worked there, it was a lot of women. A lot of young women came in during the war, and they all had to keep their lips sealed, not talk, and not even tell each other what they were doing, and they really didn't know what was going on. And these people, to me, were kind of the faceless people that were behind everything that happened. You know, there were the powers that be, but they were the foundation. And nobody knew who they were, and in most cases, nobody still knows who they are. And I didn't want them to have particular faces because I wanted the people that worked there and lived there to be able to put themselves into the painting. A lot of the people that come in and just see my work in my studio are not necessarily car people, but they look at these and tell me that they love the old cars too. And it's amazing how many people feel that way about them. It brings back memories, and they're usually good. And if it's not their own memories, then it's, you know, movies, old movies they've seen, and car shows they've been to, and a relative who refurbished old cars and took them for a ride in the rumble seat. And it's just a really fun thing. I love it when I get a little break from the cars and get to paint on something looser and more abstract, and then I feel like I'm playing again. I actually moved from painting to painting, and I have this circle around my cabaret of easels and some on the wall, and I can paint on one painting for a while, and when I need to get away from it, move on to the next and on to the next. This work is called The Journey, and it's all about everybody's individual journey. And so it's a different place for each person that looks at it, and it's kind of a different story for each person that looks at it. It reaches out and it pulls people in, and I have people come into the studio and really just watch it as the colors changed, and they're mesmerized. It's really pretty nice, and people tell me all the time how they're touched by it. I have that kind of energy that I'm putting into my paintings, and I want people to feel that. And when they see that, it should read to them, you know, this is energetic, this means something, and this is important. Pay attention, you know, it's for you.
If you have ever needed your spirits lifted, then you know the power of flowers. The way one man saw it, every patient could use a bouquet in recovery, and flowers that are still beautiful shouldn't just be thrown away. Larson J. tells us how his own hospital stay sparked random acts of flowers.
In the summer of 2007, I had a near-fatal accident where I fell about 1.5 stories off a roof. I had a ladder collapse out from underneath me, and I ended up in level 1 trauma hospital with a lot of broken bones, and really lucky to be alive. That's where the idea for Random Acts of Flowers started, was in that hospital where I was overwhelmed with support in the way of flowers, just dozens and dozens and dozens of bouquets in the first week, and we just got such an amazing outpouring of support, and then almost immediately looked around and saw how many rooms around us had no family, no support, no flowers, really no life, and we had this amazing jungle of joy and happiness. It just seemed kind of like the right thing to do, and so we took all of our flowers, we took the cards off of it, loaded up the wheelchair, and just started making deliveries to patients around us. And really that was the first Random Acts of Flowers, and it sparked an idea of what do you do with flowers after they're delivered or after they're used or unused. That sparked the whole idea and got us going.
I became a volunteer through a friend who was volunteering here at the time. And I thought she was really kind. This is a great place to come. I love Random Acts of Flowers. It associates a number of things that I've loved all my life, flowers and people, and the opportunity to do some good things and return something to the community.
Ironically enough, I know virtually nothing about flowers, and I run a flower charity. I was a film and television producer by trade, had worked in the entertainment industry as a producer for a long, long time, and really, this drastic life change happened, and it built an opportunity to develop something like Random Acts of Flowers, and now this is what I do, and have the opportunity to bring it to other places now. The giving of flowers is such a universal gesture that transcends all races, religions, cultures, demographics, income levels, and really Random Acts of Flowers is a mental health charity. Our goal is to deliver a moment of positive mental health to people in a healthcare situation that maybe don't have family, haven't had a visitor, having a hard time with whatever it is they're dealing with.
Hi there.
Well, hello again.
I'm with a charity called Random Acts of Flowers, and we brought these by to help brighten up your day.
Oh, those will cheer me for days and days and days.
Good. That's exactly what we like to hear.
I know.
Random Acts of Flowers is a 100% recycling charity, so we buy virtually nothing. Everything we get is sourced from the community. So we get our flowers from about 6 different places, mostly weddings, memorial services, grocery stores, church services, special events, basically wherever flowers are used throughout the year. I mean, it kind of ebbs and flows. So in the spring you have a lot of festivals, in the summer you have a lot of weddings, in the fall you have a lot of banquets and cotillions. The great thing about our program is that our mission delivery is only dictated by the amount of flowers that come in the door. The more flowers we get that come in, the more we can process, the more people we can help in the community. So it's a constant process that we're working on to make sure we get more flowers from more people.
I was in the flower business for 38 years, and after I lost my husband, I was sort of lost to do something. And Random Act of Flowers had just started. I got in probably about 6 months after they started. It was a way for me to get back into my profession, plus help people. And everybody says, oh, you were in the flower business. Oh yes, I was, and I still am, a little bit.
I think Random Acts of Flowers is the best charity I've ever seen, because it takes materials that would otherwise be put in the garbage in a landfill, and it repurposes them into something that makes people smile. And every time I make a bouquet, I think in terms of, will this make someone smile?
When Random Acts of Flowers first started, we were doing about 50 to 150 deliveries a month, pretty small bouquets, just kind of getting going. And just a few years later, we're now doing 800 to 1,000 deliveries per month of really substantial bouquets to patients in all over the East Tennessee healthcare community. We are likely going to deliver 10,000 bouquets this year alone, which is far above last year, and it continues to grow. We're thrilled at the opportunity to serve that many people, to think that we can positively affect 10,000 people in a year with what would otherwise be waste. It goes to the core of why we do this, and it validates our mission every day.
It's a wonderful feeling knowing that when people are in the hospital, they're not feeling well. When people are in nursing homes, they often are sort of left alone for a long period of time. Some people don't have family who come visit. Some people don't have people who care about them to bring them flowers. I was on a delivery once, and I walked in, and this young woman had had surgery. And you always walk in holding the flowers, you state that we're from Random Acts of Flowers and that this is because someone cares about you. And she just started crying. She said, no one has ever given me flowers. So I gave her 2.
Random Acts of Flowers is a small, simple idea that's grown into a sophisticated program here in East Tennessee. Our goals and our sights are set far beyond our impact right here in the volunteer state. We are currently working on an expansion plan that will bring this model across the country. Over 30 requests from across the states. We've had 3 international requests. People are constantly contacting us saying, I love the idea, I love the mission, I love the focus. How do I get a Random Acts of Flowers in my town? We're going to be opening up 2 new facilities in the Tampa Bay area. We have 4 or 5 other cities being developed behind that. And really the goal is how could we take this model and deliver it to the world? If the giving of flowers is a universal gesture, if we can be a catalyst between wasted flowers and people in a hospital, then I think there shouldn't be any reason why there wouldn't be a Random Acts of Flowers in every medium or large size city across the country, maybe across the globe. And I hope we look back, 10 years from now as this is a worldwide organization and say it started here in Tennessee, it was fueled by volunteers, and it now has an opportunity to impact a whole lot of people across the globe.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of Tennessee Life. I'm Vickie Lawson. See you next time.
Tennessee Life is sponsored by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville, nexttonewknox.com, and by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations, knoxvilleflowerpot.com.